First of all, thanks a lot for everyone, coming up today and showing up half an hour or more of time on a weekend. So we have Shreyas with us today, and I think I've introduced Shreyas pretty well on the calls and emails and the messages I've done in the past few days. So Shreyas, if you would like to introduce yourself, stage is yours today, man.
Thank you so much, Sanjay bhai. Okay, before I really start, I would request everyone that if possible, please turn on your video cameras because sometimes it gets slightly weird to be talking to a screen, right? So if that's possible, then I would really request everyone to do that. Right? If it's not possible, then I completely understand. Right. So my name is Shreyans, and I've been investing for quite some time now. I actually started investing as soon as I started earning, which is about a year and a half, 2 years back. And I've studied a lot of that. I belong to that stream of study only. That is why it was a natural way for me to start. Right. But I feel that investing and money management are very basic skills that everyone should do and everyone can learn very easily, right? So there is a lot of complications going around about how we can approach it, but still there are simpler ways to do it, and many wiser people than me and probably all of us have done that and been very successful. So this is what we'll be trying to do today. The way we go forward is that I have very few things to share, very simple and very few things to share that would take about 10-15 minutes, and after that we try to keep it as interactive as possible. I have received a few questions from the Google Forms that you guys would have filled, right? So we'll try to keep it really in a conversational manner that you could ask questions and I'll try my best to answer. Okay. If anyone has any suggestions during or throughout the session, then please feel free to just drop in a message, and I'd be, more than happy to kind of modify what I'm going to share according to that. All right. Now, before I start, I have one small request from everyone that I would actually want to understand a few things about the people that are here. So I have a few questions that I would request everyone to answer probably through the messages in the chat box, which is, have you invested before? If yes, then how did you invest, through stocks or bonds or mutual funds, whatever, right? And how do you want to really get into investing? Do you want to get into investing as a secondary source of income, or do you want to get into the investment industry, trying to work as a professional, right? And I'm assuming that everyone here is a working person, right? So you have some sort of income as well. If my assumption is incorrect, then please mention that in the message as well. So I'll just wait for a few minutes for everyone to reply to these questions. I'll also message these in the chat box. Okay. School student. Okay, that's very interesting. Invested since 1 year into MF stocks and commodities. Won this second. Me still learning. Everyone's learning, man. I'm not invested before. Secondary investment. Just started my professional journey. First income is on the way by end of the month. Congratulations, man. Congratulations, Pallavi. Sorry. Here to learn where to invest. Not invested before. Secondary. Mm, School student. Investing from past 6 months into stocks. Have not started investing yet. Although started learning about it during the lockdown. Okay. Mm, would request everyone to please respond so that I can start. RDN, of course it counts. Of course, RDN FD also counts. Even if you have savings, even if you have money in your savings account, I will also consider that as an investment. Although not the best one, but still it's an investment of sorts because you're saving for the future. In not invested yet, secondary source, only in FD, that's completely all right. invested in MF fixed deposits only, trying to move towards in finance industry. Okay, never invested before, not invested yet. FD, only in FD. Okay, so what I'm really guessing is our parents have really helped us to make the investment decisions because our parents love FDs, and it's also a very important way to start, right? But we'll also explore more options today. I guess more or less everyone's replied. If anyone has not responded, please do so. Not invested yet. Okay. FDs and RDs. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think more or less everyone, apart from a couple of people, I understand that more or less everyone is working. You have an income, right? And most of the people have either not invested or invested into safer instruments. And few of you have also started with mutual funds and stocks, right? So I think that is very important to understand for me. All right. Now, what I'll quickly do is I have few things to share, very few things. I have just illustrations actually, which more or less cover everything that we need to know at this stage, right? At our starting stage. So I'll just quickly share my screen. I would request to get the access to share the screen. Also, if anyone faces any issue, audio, video issue, please message in the chat box so that we can try to sort it out.
I think, Shreyans, you already have access.
The message pops up, host disabled participant screen sharing. So either you could make me the host or you could allow me to do that.
Yes, yes, I'll do that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. All right. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. If somebody could just respond so that I am sure of it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Right. So now everybody knows inflation, right? So this is just one of the illustrations that I found recently while I was scrolling through Twitter. Is that how much is 100 today worth in terms of 1950 money? So if you had $100 in 1958, in 2020, it's just 1.2 bucks. It's hardly anything, right? Now, I really hope that everyone goes on to live for another 62 years, right? So we definitely need to be very sure of this thing called inflation, and we need to plan this in advance, right? So now this is very simple thing, very what you need to do, right? Now this is one of the fund managers from USA that I follow.
Shreyansh, could you ask others to just mute their mic because
yes,
you're not audible?
Okay, just a second. I'll probably do this from my side as well. Guys, I'd request everyone to please mute so that the voice is on. Is it clear now? Is it better now? I hope it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Right. Now, this is one of US fund managers, very simple fund manager. I've attended a lot of his sessions as well. Now, this is as simple as this. Live below your means, right? It's obviously that our expenses should be well below, not just below, but well below our earnings. Invest diversified with a 10-year plus horizon, right? Now, invest is something that we all have to do. Diversified simply means that we don't put all our eggs in one basket. We are investing with different exposures so that even if one thing goes wrong, the other things kind of give us return, and it basically helps us to earn what we want to with a 10-year plus horizon. Now, why do we take a 10-year plus horizon, right? So there are a few very simple things that we have to understand, right? So the first thing is, I'm sure everybody understands compounding, right? So the longer the time period that we have, the stronger the power of compounding, right? So you probably, if you invest for 3 to 5 years, you're going to get returns, but these are not going to be astronomical returns. On the other hand, if you invest for, let's say, 15, 20, 25 years, you're going to get very solid returns, even if the rate of return per year is the same. That is the power of compounding, right? Now, the next thing is when you invest for a longer term horizon, the third point that you have here, expect and accept volatility, right? So as the time horizon increases, the volatility of investments goes down, right? So within a short period of time, let's say a year or even 3 years or 5 years, the volatility is there. But as you start increasing, so when you increase from 1 to 3, then 3 to 5, then 5 to 10, generally the volatility drops down, especially if you're investing into quality stocks or quality companies, right? And this is not, I mean, this is not an assumption or something like that. This has actually been proven by data analysis, right? So as the time period increases, the volatility, the fluctuation goes down. The third thing is expect and accept volatility, right? Now, this is also another thing that we have to understand here, that once every 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years, the market is going to tank and you're going to lose quite a bit of your portfolio value, right? But then the market will again rise. That is why, again, it is important to have a long-term horizon, but it is also important to accept that this is going to happen. I'm going to lose some of the money that is there in my portfolio, because that's just the way the market works. And you don't have, so that you're not so worried psychologically, because what happens is, suppose I invest $100 today, and 3 months down the line, the value has just fallen to let's say 35 or 40. So I'm highly in loss, but then I should have the stomach to digest it. And honestly, it just comes with experience and having very clear goals, right? And yeah, that's 90% of finance, literally 90%. Okay, so the next thing, now this is again a very interesting thing that I found here on Twitter, which is basically a combination, or let's say a matrix of our income and cost of living. Let's just simplify cost of living into expenses. So now what really important here is to understand that before we start investing, we really need to start streamlining our personal finances. We need to know what is the current financial situation, how much are we earning, how much are we spending, do we have insurance and stuff like that, right? So if you don't have an income, then obviously the first priority is to create income and create reasonable amount of income, such that you can easily meet your cost of living, and then you can also, start investing the amount of money that you have there. So if you have low income and low expenses, then it is tough, but it is okay. You could still, survive. If you have low income and high expenses, it is probably going to get you into lots and lots of trouble. You might even get into debt, right? On the other side, if you have high income and high cost of living, which usually happens in a lot of corporate jobs, right? So if you go to, if I assume that some of you might be working in corporates, and you notice that a lot of your colleagues, a lot of your seniors, they have very high incomes. I mean, considering what the median income in our country is, so they have very high incomes, but they also have a very high cost of living. They have the latest gadgets, they buy expensive stuff, and that is why you get caught up into that rat race, where you keep earning, you keep spending, you keep earning, you keep spending, right? You just keep running, but you're not going to get rich, right? And then the final one, which is what you should be aiming to do, which is where your income is high, but your expenses are low, or your cost of living is low. So that whatever amount of money, ideally, your investment amount per month should exceed the expense amount that you have for every month, right? This should be your goal, one of the first goals that you can achieve, because that's where you're investing, you're working with your time as well. You're earning your salary or your income in business, which is the active income, and the money that you've invested, that is also generating passive income. And since your money that you're investing is more than your expenses, then it is going to reap substantial benefits, right? So this is in terms of personal finance. What we really need to do is first create income. That income should sufficiently exceed expenses, such that we can invest more than we spend every month, right? And don't be very, very eager to constantly update your lifestyle, right? Sometimes it's okay, small incremental steps are okay if you want to create a lot of wealth, and but in a reasonable period of time. Nothing happens quickly. So I would assume that most of the people here are in the age group of, let's say, 20 to 25, right? So if you're within this age group, then you should start expecting returns when you're 35 plus. Anything earlier than that would either be luck or a one-off opportunity, and in most cases, it is not the probability doesn't really favor it, right? Okay, and one of the final things that I have here, just a second. So this is very simply what you should probably do. Now, this is what I have done as well. I probably did this a couple of years back, and I still keep reviewing it as well. So the first step is to know your financial situation. As I talked about earlier, now when I talk about financial situation, it means that I should know how much I'm earning, how much am I spending, what are my assets, do I have any loans that I need to pay off, because those are also very commitments, right? So that is there. How much savings do I have at this point of time? Do I have insurance or not? insurance is also a very important aspect, right? Health insurance is a must for everyone. You can take life insurance if there is somebody dependent on you. So for example, I mean, if your parents are dependent on you right now, right? Or let's say that, I mean, you have a younger sibling or some, due to your family circumstances, your family is dependent on you, then take life insurance as well. Otherwise, you can probably delay life insurance for now. The third one is earn a lot, spend lot less. I think we've already discussed this in plenty of detail. Invest only in what you understand. Now, this is a very, very important point that uh, most of us might sometimes miss out. Now, when I say only in what you understand, this is important because when your investment goes into the red zone, as I am sure that if you had invested some time back, a lot of your investments also would be in the red, right? So the money that I invested in August last year has just broken even because of the massive fall that we had towards March end and April beginning, right? So when this goes down, if you don't understand what you're invested in, you never know when it is going to increase or when it is going to go down, right? Market is already random, and then you also don't have any understanding of what you're invested in. So now I gave a personal example of what I am also doing. So for example, if you would have noticed, Reliance has gained massively in the last 2 months or so. It has raised a lot of funding and the stock has probably returned, I don't know. One of my friends purchased that stock around 800 or 900 last year in November, December, and now I don't know, it's 1800 or 2000, somewhere around that. I don't know actually, right? But I don't understand Reliance as a company, to be honest. It's very complex for me to understand. And that is the reason why, even though I feel that Reliance has given massive returns, but I don't know what would happen if it goes down or if it increases or whatever happens with the company, right? So I am okay to miss out on some returns if I don't understand it, because I am sure that then I will make better returns in what I understand, right? So if you don't understand it, then you're going to be in trouble when things go wrong, and they will go wrong some sooner or later. So you should be prepared to accept. Now, accept risk and volatility. This is something that we've already talked about. Now, I'd also want to spend a few minutes talking about risk, right? So there are two aspects to risk as well. Guys, if any between anywhere you feel that I need to explain something, then please just drop in a message. Or if you want me to repeat anything as well, please just drop in a message, right? Okay. Now I want to talk about risk, right? Because I'm sure if you would have read about investing, then a lot revolves around that. It is a balance between risk and return. If you want higher returns, then you need then you need to take higher risks. If you cannot take high risk, then you have to satisfy with low returns. This is more or less true, but in here is what we could do is, the first thing is to understand our risk taking ability and risk taking willingness. Now, risk taking ability depends on our financial situation and our family's financial situation, right? So I am fortunate enough to belong to a family that is well to do. So in that sense, I have a secured life, so to say, and I have the ability to take risk. But nature wise, I'm not really a risk taker. I'm either risk neutral or risk averse, right? You understand this because based on you, your friends and stuff like that. So you'd know, okay, this guy is probably prepared to take more risk, and this guy makes calculated bets, right? So now I'm trying to increase my willingness by experience, understanding, analysis, and stuff like that, right? So there are two aspects: risk taking ability, which depends on your and your family's financial situation, then the willingness to take risk, which depends on your nature, your experience, your understanding, and your knowledge, right? All right. Now, and the final thing is be patient, right? Things can go wrong, but trust yourself that in the long term, it will work out. And for that, it is very important that you have clear goals, right? So now, for example, when I started investing, I had very clear goals in terms of that when I am 30 years of age, this is what I want my portfolio value to be. When I am 35, this is how much money I want from my investments every month. I understand that it is difficult, but it is very important. And obviously, you can keep changing your goals. You can keep modifying your goals as and when your situations change. But you should have goals, because only when you have goals, then you can make better decisions that, okay, should I take out my money or should I let it stay in my investments or not? Otherwise, what happens when we make an investment? For example, a lot of people say that I want to invest for the long term. But what does long term mean? When will you take it out, right? How much notional loss, which is basically the fall in portfolio value, are you willing to bear? What is your purpose of investing? So have those goals in mind. Take a pen or paper or open a Word or Excel, Write down these things, spend 15, 20, 30 minutes, right? And I'm sure everybody knows Excel, so you could also do calculations. For example, if I want my portfolio value to be, let's say, 50 lakhs in 8 years time, and have a starting corpus of, let's say, 5 to 7 lakhs, right? Then I can actually calculate that how much amount of money do I need to invest every month so that I can reach my goal. And I could actually also do a sensitivity analysis where I compare different rates of return. So for example, if I get a rate of return of only 8%, then I'll have to invest more amount per month. But if I'm getting 15%, then I can invest lesser amount and still reach that goal. So all of these calculations are very easy to do. They don't take a lot of time. And this is something that you should definitely do when you start investing, right? So more or less, this is what I had to share. I'll just stop sharing the screen now. I have few more comments and then we'll move on to the question and answers, right? So, okay. Now, obviously the first question that most of the people would have, that how do we start, boss? Ye sab gyan to theek hai, but how do we start? What is the first thing that we should do? And my answer to that is spend 3 to 6 months understanding your financial situation, recording your expenses, and trying to streamline everything. During those 3 to 6 months, also understand your risk taking ability, set your objectives, and gain some bit of knowledge that you can, probably by reading books, watching videos. There is plenty of extremely amazing content out there that you could read from the most experienced and most successful investors. And based on that, then you start investing, right? The technicalities are obviously also there, that in order to invest into stocks, you need a demat account. Mutual funds, you could go directly by creating a folio. You obviously need a PAN card in order to invest, because that detail is required everywhere and all of that stuff goes, right? But first, streamline your finances, understand your risk taking ability, be clear about what you want to achieve, and then start investing, right? And also, when you start investing, instead of directly jumping into stocks, I always suggest that first start with savings account or fixed deposit. Then you could slowly move on to liquid funds. So liquid funds are basically mutual funds only, but they invest into safer instruments, which are mostly government bonds or government commercial paper or treasury bills, and very short term instruments, and they might yield about 6 to 7%, right? So that is more or less slightly above inflation, or sometimes they might also return lesser than inflation, right? After you're covered with liquid funds, then you move to bonds, or debt mutual funds, basically, which are equally safer but give slightly more return. But also be aware that not all bonds are good. Some companies do default on their bonds, and not all bond mutual funds are also safe, because this might go wrong as well, right? So you need to spend some amount of time trying to understand what you're getting yourself into. After that, you could start with index fund. I feel index fund is a very good option for everyone to start with, because index fund is basically, in India, we majorly have Nifty and Sensex index funds. So Nifty is basically India's top 50 listed companies, right? So you're buying into all of those into a proportionate ownership with respect to how much is invested in how the weights in the Nifty, right? So basically putting your money into Nifty. It gives you the market return, and it is good enough, right? I mean, I think Sensex has yielded, if we take out the recent crash that has happened, or maybe if we include the recovery, then Sensex has yielded about 13 to 15% in the last 30 years, which is very good as well, right? You could then move on to equity mutual funds, which try to give you more return than Sensex or Nifty or whatever benchmark, but not all equity mutual funds outperform, which is the reason that I also prefer index funds, because most of the equity mutual funds cannot outperform the market over a 10-year period consistently. So they might outperform something for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, and then they'll underperform. And this is how usually most mutual funds work. Few equity mutual funds, uh, yes, I actually, just a second. Yes, so few equity mutual funds can outperform for an extended period, but most not. Just a second, can you suggest some point of source where we can start learning about it, please? All right, so I actually forgot to share. Thank you so much for reminding me. Is that I'll just share my screen again. Now, I would request everyone to spend your weekend reading this book and listening to this podcast. So I think anyone who's remotely interested in entrepreneurship would have heard about this guy called as Naval Ravikant, who's an Indian American entrepreneur. He's the founder of AngelList. there is this podcast called How to Get Rich. It is very long, 3.5 hours, but trust me, it is the best piece of podcast you'd ever listen to. And I can personally vouch for this. It is extremely amazing. And when it comes to specifically personal finance and investing, I think this book, Coffee Can Investing by Saurabh Mukherjee, Rakshit Ranjan, Pranab Unyad, they run a investment management company called as Marcellus Investment Managers. I type in the name, don't worry. And their investing strategy and their investing approach is probably the best that I feel, and I still learn a lot from their works and their books and their portfolio construction methodology. So I think, and Coffee Can Investing is fairly easy to understand for anyone. You don't have to belong to any investment management industry to be able to do that. It is definitely a must read for everyone. And this is actually based on a research done back in 1984. So yep, that is there. So I think those are the few things. I'll probably just write in, give me a second, I'll write in How to Get Rich podcast by Naval Ravikant. Then there is this book, Coffee Can Investing by Saurabh Mukherjee. And then there is finally Marcellus Investment Managers. Right? I think this is useful for anyone who's also trying to get into the investment management industry, let's say, I mean, in a professional manner and not just invest, the book. So yeah, and once you're done with equity mutual funds, you could start investing into stocks as well, right? So investing into individual companies. And the reason I say that if you would have noticed, this is more or less a journey from safety to return. So on the one spectrum, on the one side of the spectrum, you have FDs and savings accounts, which are probably the safest, depending on which bank you have them in, right? I hope you have those in safer banks, right? And on the other spectrum, you have stocks, which are basically very volatile, but they are the ones, equity is basically what makes you wealthy, right? Now, after stocks, you could actually go for alternative investments, which includes venture funds, private equity, real estate, commodities, and stuff like that. And you could go for derivative instruments. But I feel that as an individual investor, somebody who's trying to make additional income, those make no sense. And you honestly don't need to get there. So stocks is basically where you would want to stock. And after you've reached there, you could balance your money between safer instruments, which is basically liquid fund and bonds, and in risk and in basically return instruments, which are basically stocks, equity mutual funds, and index funds. So, and you could keep balancing based on your needs, based on your goals, based on your risk taking ability, and how different instruments perform. So yeah, that is pretty much what I had to share. Now I would request everyone, if you have any questions, then please ask any questions that you have, anything that you'd want to understand more, and I'll be more than happy to discuss that. I hope what I shared right now made sense. I'm so sorry I took a little longer. How to set goals? What do you mean by understanding the company? What all should we cover to build better understanding? Do you have the Excel template which helps you calculate returns? I don't have an Excel template as such. I'll share it. I'll create a very simple template and I'll share it. It's very simple. Now, how to set goals, right? Anyone has any more questions, then please message. I'll try to combine similar questions and probably answer them together. So I'll just wait for a few minutes so that you can type in your questions. You could also unmute and speak. It is completely okay. In fact, I would prefer if you would unmute and speak. Yes, this podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I mean, on all podcast platforms. Don't worry. Or you could just go to his website and you'll find the links there. For a newbie, what's the best investment to start with right now? I mean, okay. So now my problem is that I can't really suggest one investment that can fit everyone, right? I mean, the investment that you start with will depend on how much you've already made. I mean, how much investment you've already made in different instruments and what's your goal and risk taking ability, right? But I would say that first build up your savings account and liquid savings account so that you have emergency fund ready. And after that, if you're basically have security, let's say in the form of support from your parents, then you could start, let's say, with index funds, right? So index funds, but then be very clear that if you're investing into equities, which is index fund is also basically equity only. So if you're investing into equities, keep a long-term period. I honestly don't know that what is going to happen to the Sensex or Nifty in the next 1 year or even in the next 3 years. But I know that in the next 10, 15 or 20 years, Nifty is going to give me good returns, right? So that is there. How to set goals. So I'll probably take this one now. How to set goals. So I set goals in terms of two things. One is in terms of income. I think that is very obvious with whatever you're working. You could basically have, you could basically set goals either by how much you want to earn, or you could also take a reasonable increment rate that happens every year in your industry, right? So if your job is not getting you enough money, or if your business is not getting you enough money, you could start a side hustle as well that could get you additional income. And the next goal that I set is in terms of assets or investments that I have to make. Because let's understand, whatever money you have to spend, you can spend the money only out of the money that you already have. So only if you have income and assets, then you can, basically spend all the money that you need to. So this is the second part where I have a timeline that this is how much I need to invest every month, or let's say every year. And this is something that you could set your goals in. The third thing that you need to understand is specific expenses that you're going to incur, right? So for example, let's say any one of you wants to go for a master's, right? Now master's costs a lot of money, and so that is going to be there. That expense is going to be there, let's say in 3 to 4 years. So you can plan for that. Obviously, you won't be able to gather all the money, right? But you can plan some amount of money, do return calculations, and then let's say that, okay, this is the amount of money that I'm going to keep aside for funding towards my master's. Or you could be going to buy a laptop, let's say in 6 months from now. So you could keep that money separately. So I would say set income goals, and then set asset or investment goals. And the third thing is set a timeline for any big expenditure that you're going to incur, right? And how do I define big expenditure? Let's say where the amount is more than half of your monthly income. So if you're earning 50,000 per month, then anything that costs more than 25K would be a fairly big expenditure that you should plan for, right? Not just big, but you should plan for it in advance, right? I'll share the Excel template. What do you mean by understanding the company? What all should we cover to build a better understanding? Now, understanding a company is a very tedious and long process, right? I mean, it takes analysts hours and hours to understand it. But as an individual retail investor, what I'll say is that, just understand what business is the company in, right? So, I mean, what is it selling, right? I mean, whatever is it selling, is it an important product or not? Are the financials good enough? So you could basically set few criterias. So I'm sure that everyone would be aware of financial ratios like return on capital, profit margins, and capital structures, right? Stuff like that. So you could basically use those as a filter or parameters to shortlist companies. And then you try to understand about the business, that whether you feel this business is going to have scope in the future or not. Now, there are lots of different aspects, let's say business models, industry research, and stuff like that. But I wouldn't feel that it is, you should go into that much detail because you honestly don't have the time. You would rather focus on your work that is there. But look at the financial statements and try to see that the financial statements are okay. You could employ the ratio analysis to understand that. Then understand about the business in the simplest terms, right? So for example, when I say a company like, let's say Nestle, right? So I know that Nestle sells FMCG products and it sells baby milk powder or baby milk products, right? So, and this is what it sells. It has been selling those for a long period of time. It will keep selling, right? And it is in a good business. It has good financials as well. So it might make for a good investment, right? So yeah. What about using, what side hustles can someone start who is in, let's say, final year student or someone who just joined the job? So I think freelancing is a very good option, But what you pick in freelancing is also then depends on your skill level, right? So let's say you understand a little bit of Photoshop, so you could start designing on the weekends or whenever you get time, right? So that is one thing you could look for. I think freelancing is something that everyone should do. Any sort of side projects that you have, or let's say you know someone in your network who's running a company, who started a company, so you could probably collaborate with them and see if you could get so you could provide them with some value and you could get some income there. You could also do something as affiliate marketing, but I haven't done that personally. I know a few people who do that, where you're basically sharing links to, you basically sharing links to sell products. Another thing that you could do, I mean, you could have done before Corona were campus ambassador programs, right? So a lot of the companies are looking for campus ambassadors to sell stuff. The let's say the more recent version of that is social commerce, which is more or less similar to affiliate marketing only, where there are a lot of companies that don't have physical distribution channels, so they go through the digital distribution channels, and you can share their stuff. You could help them sell their stuff, and then you could earn some amount of money based on that, right? So that is there. If you are extremely interested in any topic, and if you have very good knowledge of any topic, then I would actually suggest you to also start conducting workshops on that topic if it is possible for you to do that, right? So that is something that you could work on. If you have, I mean, I hope it made sense. If you have any more questions about this, please reach out to me. What about using fundamental and technical analysis to invest? Okay, I'll be very clear here, right? So more or less fundamentals are used for long term and technicals are used for short term or trading. And I know nothing about trading. I'd be very honest here. I tried learning trading, but it did not work out for me for some reason, right? So if you're going to invest, let's say for only a day or 3 months or 6 months, then technicals would be very, very useful, right? But also understand that technical analysis is more or less like a full-time job. So if you want to trade, like a lot of people, you would have seen those ads on Facebook and YouTube that you could just trade on your app and make profits like 20,000, 30,000. That doesn't happen, right? So please be aware of those. Those are not, I mean, I'm not sure I can trust those people and trust those apps, right? So if you're going to trade, please understand that it is more or less a full-time job. Most of the traders spend a lot of time building models, doing technical analysis, right? So technical analysis is also a skill. You can develop it on the side, but if you're going to trade, then it requires more or less, I mean, a lot of dedication, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours per day. A few of my friends also do trading, day trading, right? They do it. So they spend a lot of time doing that as well. If you're going to invest for 3 to 6 months, I wouldn't call that investing, to be honest. But if you're going for 3 to 6 months, then also you could probably spend some time looking at charts. But then you need to be very active about when to buy and when to sell, because you might miss out that opportunity, right? And fundamental analysis is something that, let's say, you could do on the weekends. So on Saturday, Sunday, let's say you have 5 to 6 hours extra. So on 5 to 6 hours, you could read through the company's annual report and you could understand about the business. So annual reports are a great way to understand about the company's business. And then you could make an investment decision based on long term as well, right? But even when you're investing for long term, be careful that the price might not move anywhere for 5 to 6 years, and it might suddenly move in a matter of a month or so, right? So be comfortable with that as well. Which apps do you usually use? Have you? Yes, I have used Grow. I have used Grow to invest into mutual funds. It worked fine, right? But then I have stopped investing into mutual funds, to be honest. I'm only focusing on stocks, right? So I have a Demat account and I follow that. Grow is a good app. You could go to the mutual funds website directly. I think there is ET Money and I don't know, IndWealth as well. So there are a few apps. I have used Grow personally. It worked fine for me. So yeah. And then specific mutual funds have their apps also, like HDFC Mutual Fund has its app, so I transact through that as well. So yeah. I think I've answered most of the questions. If I missed out something, or if you want to ask something more, then please drop in a message. Guys, I'm still kind of waiting for questions. Is it better to deal directly through the bank Demat account, or do you prefer third-party apps? Right? I mean, so it is not necessarily that you have either of these, right? So what I really mean by that, first of all, is that if you have a bank account somewhere, that doesn't mean you also have to open a Demat account there, right? You could open a Demat account with any of the brokers like Anand Rathi, or I mean, Angel Broking, Motilal Oswal, all of them as well, right? And third-party apps like Zerodha or Upstocks. So I haven't used Zerodha or Upstocks, but a few of my friends have used it, and they are pretty much okay with it, right? I mean, so what I would actually suggest, that while you're going to open your Demat account, try to see if there is someone in your network who who works at a brokerage or something like that. Because if they're working there and you personally know them, then they can quickly assist you if you face some problems, right? So if you know someone who's either working on a brokerage or who has a sub franchise of any brokerage, then I would suggest you to open an account there. In most of these offline brokerages like Anand Rathi or Angel Broking, there is not a lot of difference in the charges, right? But obviously on a third party app like let's say something like a Zerodha or Upstocks, in that case the charges are quite significantly different, right? But then since you're buying and selling, so please control yourself if the price goes down, and don't panic buy or panic sell, right? So just be careful about that. But I would prefer, if you know someone, then open a Demat account through them. If not, then you could probably go with either of these. I mean, any of these is fine. Your views on sovereign gold bonds by RBI, worth investing in your opinion? So I'd be honest, I haven't really explored the gold bonds as such, to be honest, because I was very much focused on the stocks that I had to select. So as of now, I really don't have any understanding of that. So I mean, I would not really be able to answer that. I'm sorry. I mean, it is better, not answering is better than giving you wrong information, right? I'll probably read it and then I could share something on that. But as of now, I don't have much of information. Can you suggest some mutual funds for 3 to 5 years? Okay, I honestly, I would suggest index fund only. So you could invest into a Nifty index fund. The various companies that operate a Nifty index fund. There is Mirae Asset that operates a Nifty index fund. HDFC has a Nifty index fund. I'm sure there are other asset management companies as well. I am not too sure about mutual funds, to be honest, because I started investing via mutual funds, but now I'm considering withdrawing all of that money from mutual funds and invest that directly into stocks, because I have had that sort of experience and I'm also putting in that sort of time to understand my investments, right? But if you're going for mutual funds, equity mutual funds, then I would suggest that start with index funds, to be honest, right? I mean, I think they're better than most of the mutual funds. So in relatively less amount of time, because index funds don't require a lot of analysis, in relatively less amount of time, the probability of getting good returns is very good compared to, let's say, a different actively managed mutual fund. So I would say index fund, to be honest. Guys, I'm sorry if there is some sort of disturbance from my side. There's something going on nearby. Right. If you have any more questions, then please drop them in the chat box so you could unmute and speak.
Sure. For a complete beginner to start in investing, like I've not invested before, only my dad is doing on my behalf, like in FDs and RDs. Like, if I want to personally jump in, like, what would you suggest me to do?
So if let's say this was also a similar case to mine, like if let's say your family has invested into safer assets, FDs, RDs, and let's say also PPF or something like that, right? So if you have enough safe investments, then you can start with index funds, right? I mean, because index funds will give you good return and you don't need to understand a whole lot, right? But after that, if you want to start investing into specific stocks, just read the annual report before investing. Read the annual report, look at the broad financial performance. So you could read the annual report and the investor presentation, right? That would give you most of the information that you need to understand the company. If you understand the company and if you feel it is going to do well in the future, then you can invest, or otherwise it is better to eliminate that company.
Got it.
So,
and these annual reports are, I think, mostly shared by the companies only, right? On the website.
Yeah, it is compulsorily, it has to be shared, right? It is available on the company's websites, on BSE websites and stuff like that, right? But annual reports are also fairly long. So some companies make annual reports, there are 300 pages or something like that. So there are few important elements that you could look for in the annual report. Financial statements are obviously one. The financial statements, and along with the financial statements, companies also explain their accounting policies, right? So ideally you want a company that is following accounting policies, right? I mean, you don't have to get into detail about how the accounting policies are applied, but just a basic idea. And this is also something that you can very well understand in a few months' time. So financial statements, accounting policies, then there is a section called as management discussion and analysis. So within management discussion and analysis and director's report also, what they do is they explain about the industry, they explain about the different business lines that they operate and how do they expect their business to move forward in the future. So let's say if I pick up a company like Asian Paints, right? Asian Paints, right? So in their management discussion and analysis, they would explain about the paint industry, the home furnishing industry. Then after that, they would give a review of all that has happened and how they expect things to move forward. So from there, you can understand a lot about how the business has been operating and how the business, will be operated. And most of the companies share the highlights of their performance in the starting sections of the annual report. So you could just scroll through these to understand. So yeah, financial statements, accounting policies, management discussion and analysis, director's report, and any highlights that the company shares.
That also depends like how the company's going to perform. Like maybe they are bringing in new products and maybe they are bringing new features into their existing applications. That also depends highly on that.
Yep. So all of this information you'll find in the management discussion and analysis. New products if they introduced a product this year only, then how did it perform? What new technological innovations are they doing, let's say in their ERP system? For example, Asian Paints has probably the best ERP system anywhere in the country, and most people don't know about it, right? So all of this information you would find easily in the management discussion and analysis. And obviously reading is very easy, but understanding is difficult and it takes time, right? So for example, a lot of you would be working in different industries, right? Somebody who's working in the IT industry, it would be easy for him or her to understand a company like a TCS or Infosys versus a company like Sun Pharma, right? So try to take that edge as well. Try to utilize that as well.
Got it. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep. I guess we still have some time. So if anyone wants to share any questions, please let me know. I hope you got what you were looking for and I did not waste your time. So do we have any questions, guys? Please just let me know. Or else we'll conclude the session with one important thing that I have to share. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. If you have any last questions, then please enter your questions in the chat box, or you could unmute and speak. And after that, if there are any questions, I'll answer, or else then I'll move towards the conclusion. Okay, so I guess more or less there are no questions. Then what I would like to say is thank you so much, everyone, for being so patient for 50 minutes and listening to me. I hope I helped you and you did not waste your time. If you have any more questions, then you can very obviously reach out to me at any point of time. And I would also like to thank Sanchit and HelpCart because what they're doing is very, very helpful, at least to me as well, because what they're doing is they're getting different people who are similar to all of us, who are in the similar age bracket, but they're doing something that they feel can help and add value to everyone. So I guess they had very interesting sessions before this one. This was probably still kind of a boring session, but they had sessions on online content creation and even food blogging before. So I guess that was quite interesting. If you want to, explore more of these sessions, then I would really request that you could check out the HelpCart website. If I'm not wrong, the URL is helpcart.live. So very simple, very easy to understand. And I think you should probably stay tuned for more interesting sessions from them, from their side. And if you want to also reach out to me, you could just ask them and they would connect me with you, or you could probably drop me a mail or visit my website as well. So, I mean, that is all that I had to share. Thank you so much everyone for being so patient. I hope it helped you a lot, and I would request Sanchit to share anything that he has about HelpCart.
Sure. Actually, you stole all my last line that I had for sharing with everyone. So yes, this is pretty much what we are doing, is that we are, picking up crucial, important topics, mostly non-traditional, like food blogging, fashion blogging, entrepreneurship, and personal finance, one of the decision. And we are trying to bring in people to connect with people who want to do it, something in these domains other than the professional, traditional courses we have, like engineering, MBA, and doctorate, and other things like that. So once again, thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, Shreyans, for giving us some time and share some beautiful insights on all these personal finance and stocks and everything.
So I just have one thing to share. I guess we float around a feedback form. So I would request everyone to please take only 2-3 minutes to fill that feedback
Yes,
form. It
right.
will really help me so that, it helps me so that I'm not sharing useless information, because time is very valuable. And I would request that, I would request everyone to just spend 2 to 5 minutes to do that, right? Thank you.
Sure. Sure, guys. Okay, then I think we are done for the day. Thanks a lot for joining in.
Thank you so much. Take care. And I hope this made sense to you.